When selecting equipment for home defense, you have the extra considerations of speed and cost, as opposed to what a police officer or somebody in the military would have to consider when selecting their equipment. And because we have the constraint as a civilian of having to deal with normal life on top of being prepared for the event of defending your life, you have to select equipment that fits in that criteria, that fits your environment, your needs, and your budget. And one of the problems with home defense is having all the other items that you need for defending yourself. Most people are going to talk about the firearm selection, and knives, and those kind of offensive weapons. And then when you have people who are a little more experienced, they'll often harp more on the medical equipment. And the medical equipment is even more important in a sense because it's something that you're going to use more often. It's more likely, much more likely that you'll need to have medical training or have benefits from having medical training and having medical equipment on hand as opposed to firearms and knives. But one of the things that people don't talk about is how you deal with, carry and handle all of those other items. When we see military police equipment, we see body armor, we see vests, backpacks maybe, and a lot of the other items that go along with that, where it's a complete setup and it's all integrated. It's something that takes some time to put on. But when we're talking about self-defense, we're talking about reacting to a situation, defending ourselves in an unlikely scenario. So it's not going to happen often, but when it does, you need to be able to react and react quickly. So one of the things that I wanted to solve was getting all of those other things that I need in a way that is faster to access and to get on me quicker than a chest rig or body armor, which I have to throw over me and then pick up my rifle or do something along those lines. And it's a little slow, it's a little cumbersome. It's also something that costs more. You generally are going to be paying a lot more for that kind of stuff as opposed to just having something a lot simpler. So most people don't even think about that, don't consider that when they're thinking about home defense. They'll just buy a rifle. You also have the issue of having access to it, because we're talking about events that are unlikely. Most of the time, people who own firearms are not going to be carrying them in their own house, or they're not going to be loaded, regardless of the laws that you may have to deal with. That is on top of all those potential issues. But just as a matter of convenience, because we're talking about unlikely events, most people don't want to carry. They don't want to deal with having to carry, having to have the equipment to carry, and getting that right is a problem in and of itself. So one of the things that I've found very useful in making carrying all of those other little items fast and relatively effective, both in cost and in how I set it up, I've found the First Spear modular fight strap, which is just the strap here. All the other accoutrement I'll talk about a little bit later, but first I just want to talk about why this is effective and why I find it useful compared to having just a bag or having body armor or a chest rig. So the fight strap is very simple, just a single strap, which is adjustable, and the panel on the back, or not the back, but just the panel itself, which you attach everything to. If you set it up properly, it can be extremely fast. You would just hang it on a wall, or have this in some fashion able to grab. And when you have it like that, you can throw it over yourself very quickly. And just like that, you have pretty much everything you're going to need. And it's okay that it's loose, because we're not covering large distances, we're not trying to travel far, we're not trying to do anything very dynamic. We're basically just dealing with our own house. We may be moving one room or getting to our front door, but being a little loose, where that would be a major detriment if we're actually in combat fighting, we gain the ease of use of putting it on when we don't have to go very far. But we also have all the other things that we want to have with us. It's also nice because these things are not something you're really worried about leaving in the open. Because with a firearm, if you leave, you want to lock it up, or it's something you want to have on you, and you may not want to be carrying this around with you all the time, or really at all. So you can leave this essentially in the open, or maybe in a closet, and it's not really going to worry you. And depending on what you have on it and what you have in it, you also have less of an issue with other people that you don't want to have access to weapons, having access to this. Because I have a few things on here that you may not want to have in the open, but you can also set this up to fit your needs very easily. Also, the concept itself is very simple. I went this route because I think it works best for me, and I was willing to pay more to do things the way I wanted to do it. But you could go very cheap in this, because all it is a strap and something to carry all the other items. And the other items are going to be things that you just can't get around, all the medical equipment and tourniquets, all the gauze, maybe extra mags. You could have those just in a bag, loose. That wouldn't be very efficient, but there is a way to do the same thing, to get the same benefits of the speed and the having it all together without having to buy this that is fairly expensive, because it's not simple. It's not just a single strap. I mean, you could go to a craft store and do this and make this yourself. So you can do the same thing without spending a lot of money at all. So if you only have one firearm and that was a big purchase for you, you can get some medical equipment and get some of these other things and drastically increase your effectiveness in dealing with situations without having to spend a lot of money or having to buy all these other things and put them together. So there's a myriad of things I have on here, and some of the things I'll be changing or I'm testing out, but I'll zoom in here and talk about each specific item and why I have it and what I'm using and what I may switch it out for, or what you may switch it out for depending on your situation. So very quickly, what I have here is the First Spear modular fight strap. It has this little handle here, which I find has a little bit of use, but generally not that useful. It has a strap here that'll go around your waist, so you can secure this a little bit easier if you want to do something, if you want to use this in a more rigid fashion. This is the Blue Force Gear magazine pouch. This is the Velocity Systems. I believe it's one of their medical pouches. I have a ratcheting tourniquet. And this is the Blue Force Gear trauma kit now. I've also made some slight modifications, and I've added my own elastic here. I've sewn this onto the strap so I can attach a Benchmade, this is the SOCP dagger. And this is a Rescue Me. So it's it's actually 10 rows of the MOLLE slots. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. Did I say that right? No, that would be 7 rows, 10 columns. So you could attach 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mag pouches on the front. And on the back here, it's the loop for hook and loop. So if you wanted to do something where you're attaching quickly, kind of Velcro on the back here, you could do that without having to weave it in. But this is only on the back side. On the other side, it's just the Cordura. I don't have any plans on doing that, but if you want to use this in that way, you could do it. So the way I have this set up, the primary purpose, the most important thing on here is the medical equipment. That's going to be what I'm most likely going to want with me. And this is packed pretty well. It's a little more than what should be in here, but it's not their personal items. It's not the basic or the advanced medical equipment that you can buy with the trauma kit now. I wanted to put all my own stuff in there, and it fits pretty well, considering. One of the things that I'm trying to play with is whether or not I want to have extra magazines on here or leave this spot open for a sidearm. And if you don't have a rifle, that's one of the things you can do with this, with your, if you only have one handgun. You can put something like a Safariland ALS, use one of their QD mounts, and you can attach it to this. That way, I'll just demonstrate here very quickly, and I'll use this just for demonstrational purposes. You could have a firearm on this whole setup and take it with you and have a good holster in this whole setup. But the one problem I find with doing it this way is the weight of the gun makes this a little lopsided. So if you were trying to move around with this and you didn't use the strap to secure it to yourself, it kind of flops around. But if you only have the handgun, you could definitely go this route. One of the other things that you might want to consider is if you have a rifle and you don't think you need 3 magazines, but you want more than one, you could go with a mag coupler and just, this is a Magpul mag coupler on PMags, and then have this in your rifle. You can have 60 rounds, and it's pretty cheap instead of going a route like the Magpul D-Mag, which is 60 rounds, but it costs a lot more, and it's not a major benefit. The only thing that you're saving is the time of reloading, which is made a lot faster when it's coupled together like this. So I went this route just to try it out. And you may think having 2 mags and a sidearm is worth more than having just a single mag in your rifle and 2 mags in here. Or of course you could change this up a lot more and have both the mag coupler here for 60 rounds in your rifle and 2 extra magazines here. You could put more magazines on this, of course, but that's kind of what I'm playing with, and just a little bit about what options you have and how flexible you can make this. So to get into the other items that I'm carrying, I have a Rescue Me right here. And for those who don't know what a Rescue Me is, it's a little plastic, very light piece of plastic that has a razor blade in it for cutting seatbelt straps. And this is a glass breaker. It's a spring-loaded glass breaker. So you just press up against the glass and then you'll expose a, I'm not sure if that's a tungsten metal, I don't think it is, but it's just a hardened steel. So it shatters the glass. And you just one-handed press it up against the glass and then it breaks it. And I have it on here because I had an extra one and I likely wouldn't need the seatbelt strap cutter, but there is glass and it's super light. So if I need to break glass, I got it. This is the ratcheting tourniquet. It was approved by the TCCC committee fairly recently. I have a few comments on this though. Compared to the cat tourniquet, I should probably just do a separate video on comparing some of the tourniquets, because honestly I thought this would be a little better than what it is. It's still good, it has promise. There are certain things I like about it, but there's one thing I don't like about it, and it has to do with initially strapping it on and pulling the straps tight. You can't get it as tight as you want initially. You have to tighten it down, back off, and then tighten it down again. But it's just on here with some rubber bands. I have other tourniquets and I might want to add more here. I have the space to do it. I'd like to add another one, but right now that's just what it has. So I'll go into this other pouch first, which has a myriad of things, a few medical items, but just other little doodads. So first off, I have some zip ties. I couldn't tell you the size, it looks like a 1/4 inch, but zip ties here. And I considered carrying handcuffs. I thought about getting some because they're easier to put on, they're reusable, they're durable, but I don't want to pay for them, didn't want to carry the weight, and it's very unlikely that I'll need this. And for most people, I wouldn't even necessarily advise carrying these. They can be useful, and if you have the space on the off chance, maybe. But for most people, you don't want to go hands-on anyways. You're going to want to separate yourself. You're just going to want to keep the distance, keep them on the ground, calling 911, assuming police are still around or available, and then dealing with it that way. You know, having the ability to tie up one guy so you can deal with another might be useful, but I'm carrying them because I have the space, they're cheap, they're light, and I have the skills, capabilities to actually use them effectively where most people may not. So they're in there, just in case. Here's some extra medical. This is a OLAS, modular bandage, 4-inch. Cheap Mylar blanket, very good. Whistle, don't rape me. Here's some H&H compressed gauze, just some extra gauze. Got a Sharpie for signing autographs. Bandana, simple, cheap, multi-purpose. I have a Streamlight. It's a ProTac 2LX. I believe it's 600 lumens, 600. 10 tap programmable. It's one of the very basic ones, just the tail cap activation. So good for fighting. Bit of a raised bevel here. And this is the Palm. It's pepper spray. I'm carrying this not because I'm necessarily a big fan of pepper spray, but it does have its uses. It's cheap, it's lightweight, very easy to carry. It's not my first tool. It's not what I'm coming out with. Some people might be in areas where pepper spray is a very good option, or maybe legally speaking, one of your best options or only option. So if that is you, and pepper spray is something that you're leaning heavily on for self-defense, then you wouldn't carry it in a pouch like I am here. You would probably want to use it in place of where I have this dagger, and you would have it on the outside, very accessible, maybe even have multiple of these, because this is going to give you about 10 seconds of spray. So it's going to be a one-time use thing and then dispose of it. So if you're in that position, then this gives you an option of carrying multiple tools, multiple pepper spray canisters, and then you could have multiple here, maybe even 2 on the outside, and then other things on the inside. But I'm carrying this not because I'm a big fan of pepper spray, but because the faster I can end a situation and get out of a bad situation, the better. I don't want to deal with these people. I don't want to deal with police. I want to go back to sleep, which is probably what's happening. I'm reacting to a situation at night. Could happen during the day, but the quicker I get out of the situation, the safer I can de-escalate quickly, then it's all good. So I got that in there just in case. That's all of that. Ratcheting tourniquet. Not the best method of attachment, but it's not too bad. It comes off fairly easy enough. Gotta pull a little harder. You can see, not the best way to keep it on here, to attach it, considering the way this is designed. You'd have to pull it out one way, because this is not going to let you pull it out that way. You'd have to pull it out over here. The best way I would attach this to this is to have an elastic tube that I could keep this in, similar to what I've done here. I would just create an elastic pouch, and there are a number of them online for various items. I haven't went to search for one specifically. I may do that instead of making my own, but that would be the best way to carry this. It would be secure, You could cover it up so it's not exposed, it's not getting potentially dirty or bloody, and then it would be pretty easy to grab the top here and pull it all the way out. So that's on the to-do list. So now we'll get into the trauma kit now. The BFG trauma kit now, it is pretty awesome. There's a couple of reviews out there that are well done. They talk more about the design of it and the contents that you can get with it directly from Blue Force gear. But one of the things that I like is the luminescent patch, I guess you would call it, that they have on the outside. It also comes with a red one and a black one, but I leave this on here because at night, if you're reacting to a situation, I can easily spot it, I can see it in the dark, assuming that you've had light on it during the day to recharge it. But it's definitely beneficial in a civilian context. It may be less so for combat, of course. You wouldn't want this, it would be a massive identifier for you. But for home defense, I think it's absolutely great. And then you just pull on the tab here, and it has a polyurethane ball sewn inside, so it's not a flat piece. It gives you something to grip as you pull on it. And then you change on the back here. You have the tabs. There's the black one. I removed the red one because I'm not going to use it at all. And it also has these slots here. So they have a plastic strip that you weave in here, and it has elastic on it, so you can attach a tourniquet right on top. I didn't do it here because I didn't want it attached to it, and the way I have this packed, it's pretty large and it kind of gets in the way. So I didn't go with that. But you just pull on this tab and then you'll pull it right out. And we'll take a look at what I put inside. So here's everything that I have in here. And it's packed in pretty well considering you don't have any way to really change the layout. This is a 1-inch 3M. Celox. This is basically the competitor to combat gauze. Basic trauma shears, they work. Cheap. Use that nasal pharyngeal airway. Lubrication right on the back, it's attached to it. This is something most people are probably not going to need or want. Decompression needle. And in here, this is a 6-inch. And our twin pack chest seals. So all of that fits in just barely, but it does fit in. It fits in nice. It's fairly easy to get out once it is out, and it works. One of the other things that I kind of thought might be more useful is the loop that they've attached here to the bottom. I'm not sure exactly how useful though it's going to be, because once you fold this up and you have the contents in there, there's really nothing you can do with this. If you attach something to this, I'm not sure exactly what medical items you want attached to this with Velcro, but if you do, you're losing a lot of the space or access you have to this pouch and potentially to having things hang off the bottom here. So if somebody has some good idea with this, I'd like to know. I'm not sure what they were thinking when they made it, when they attached it here, but it is there if you want to use it. They also have this little eyelet here, which I'm assuming is for attaching with 550 cord. You could attach a chem light or something you want to dangle on there. Maybe having trauma shears with the retraction, something to retract the trauma shears, possibly. But that's on there as well. And that's pretty much all I have to say about everything on here. Like I said, the actual First Spear modular fight strap, it's special in that nobody else that I've seen offers something similar in capability. Often you'll see chest rigs, or you'll see something that's like a bandolier, but it's fixed in that they build in magazine pouches already on it, and it's not modular like this where it's just the plaque, kind of placard to fit whatever you want on it. So this is unique in that way. Also, if I forgot, this is the Benchmade SOCP Dagger. This is the, I guess you would call it the original size. They also make a mini, and I am fond of both of them. And I think that's all I have to say about that. If you have any ideas, you can let me know.